May 21st, 1924, Chicago. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb wait inside their rented vehicle, scanning the crowd of passing schoolchildren. After months of detailed planning that involved the creation of a false identity, dress rehearsals, and more, the two men were at last prepared to commit their perfect crime. All they needed now was a victim. After driving around the Hyde Park neighborhood in a frustrated effort to find a mark, the pair finally spotted their prey. They spied Bobby Franks as he was walking home from school. The 14-year-old Franks was a small boy and the son of a local millionaire, thus making him the perfect target for Leopold and Loeb's perfect crime. Pulling their car up to the boy, Loeb offered Franks a ride home. As Loeb's second cousin and his neighbor, Franks saw no danger in the offer, and so climbed into the front passenger seat of the car. Irving Hartman, a peer of Bobby Franks, saw him get into the vehicle, but stopped to examine some flowers. When he looked up, Franks and the car were gone, making him one of the last people to see the boy alive. Once in the car, Loeb reached over the front seat and hit Franks in the head with a chisel. However, the boy put up more of a struggle than expected and began to scream. A rag was forced down his mouth and he was hit again, knocking him unconscious as the rag suffocated him. Finished with their grisly murder, Leopold and Loeb stopped for a lunch of hot dogs and root beers. Once it grew dark, they drove to a nearby marshland where they stripped Bobby Franks of his clothes and poured hydrochloric acid over his body in order to prevent identification. They then stuffed the body into a culvert and drove away. Later that evening, Leopold phoned Bobby Franks' mother. Giving a false name, he informed her that Bobby had been abducted. After mailing the ransom note to the Franks, the two, confident that all would go according to plan, spent the rest of the night playing cards. Having performed their perfect crime, Leopold and Loeb have forever cemented their place in criminal history. However, this leads to the question, who were these young men and what drove them to such a barbaric act? Richard Loeb, born June 11, 1905, was the son of a retired Sears Roebuck vice president and a member of one of the wealthiest families of Chicago. A boy of extreme intellect, Loeb was the youngest graduate in the University of Michigan's history and was attending classes at the University of Chicago Law School at the age of 18. However, instead of his academic achievements, it was Loeb's obsession with crime that would eventually lead to his renown. Nathan Leopold, born November 19, 1904, as the son of a millionaire box manufacturer, was also a member of Chicago's wealthy elite. A genius in his own right, Leopold's intellect exceeded even that of Loeb's with an IQ of 210. By the age of 19, Leopold was already enrolled at the University of Chicago Law School and was a highly respected ornithologist. Meeting at the University of Chicago as young teenagers, Leopold and Loeb formed a strong yet deeply odd friendship, with the socially inept Leopold idealizing the attractive, charismatic Loeb. This strange friendship would eventually grow into a sexual relationship, as Loeb would grant favors to Leopold in return for his assistance with Loeb's main passion, crime. From a young age, Loeb was fascinated with criminal behavior, leading him and eventually Leopold to commit several small, petty crimes that would eventually grow into plots and even attempts to commit murder. However, it was not until May of 1924 that Loeb fulfilled his ultimate fantasy. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Based off the misinterpreted philosophy of the German writer Nietzsche, these two brilliant young men came to believe that they were supermen, and that because of their staggering intellects and social statuses, they were not liable to the laws of ordinary men. This belief and Loeb's insatiable passion for crime, combined with Leopold's need to please his friend, would come together to fuel their elaborate plot to perform the perfect crime, a kidnapping and murder that would be a testament to their status as supermen. However, despite their careful planning, these two would soon come to realize that even supermen are subject to the accidents of fate. The day after the murder of Bobby Franks, as Loeb and Leopold were making arrangements to collect the ransom money, a passerby found Franks' body stuffed in the culvert and called the police, thus drawing on the first thread that would unravel the whole scheme. In what would later be called the hand of God at work, the police found Leopold's horn-rimmed glasses as they searched the scene, a discovery that would prove to be a damning piece of evidence which would ultimately derail the two men's perfect crime. Upon further investigation, the police discovered that these glasses were only one of 3 that had been sold in the Chicago area, leading them directly to Leopold. Presented with this evidence, Leopold claimed that the glasses must have fallen out of his pocket during one of his many bird-watching expeditions. However, he was unable to convince the police of this. Furthermore, the type of the ransom note was found to match that of Leopold's typewriter, further condemning him. Finally, both Leopold and Loeb's alibi of having picked up girls that night in Leopold's car was ruined when Leopold's chauffeur testified that the car had remained in its garage on the night of the murder. Both men soon confessed to their crime, revealing to the investigators the precise details of their plans and actions. The only discrepancy between the two was who actually struck the killing blows, as each accused the other. To prepare for what would be known as the trial of the century, the Leopold and Loeb's families hired defense attorney Clarence Darrow, a well-known opponent of capital punishment. In the face of the public howling for their deaths, Darrow convinced Leopold and Loeb to change their pleas from not guilty by reason of insanity to guilty. Thus, Darrow succeeded in avoiding a jury trial that would have almost certainly led to a death sentence for the two. Instead, he would now have to present Leopold and Loeb's case before a single man, Judge Caverly. In the month-long trial, over 100 witnesses were called to testify, and both sides would call in the top psychiatrists of the day to analyze the boy's mental and emotional stability. Even Sigmund Freud was invited, but his health prevented him from coming. The star of the case, however, was Clarence Darrow. In a 12-hour appeal, Darrow defended Leopold and Loeb, claiming that they were the victims of their natures, while attacking the death penalty as cruel and primitive, stating that it roots back to the beast in the jungle. Instead, Darrow pleaded for life imprisonment, claiming that this was a much more appropriate punishment. When Judge Caverly finally announced his decision, he denounced the two men's act as a crime of singular atrocity. However, given the defendants' young age and their potential use in the study of criminology, Caverly sentenced Leopold and Loeb to life in prison, as well as an additional 99 years for their crimes. Leopold and Loeb were initially held in Joliet Prison, but were eventually transferred to Statesville Penitentiary. Here, the two improved the facility's school system and began to teach classes to their fellow inmates. However, on January 28, 1936, the long partnership of Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb came to an end, as Loeb was murdered by a fellow inmate. Slashed over 50 times with a razor, Loeb died in the prison's hospital, with Leopold at his side. Leopold would go on to remain active throughout his sentence. During his time in Statesville, he contributed much by teaching, working in the prison hospital, reorganizing the prison library, and even volunteering to be tested with an experimental malaria vaccine. In 1958, after serving 34 years of his life sentence, Leopold was paroled. In order to escape his own infamy, he moved to Puerto Rico, where he married, earned a master's degree, taught, and worked in hospitals and church missions. On August 29, 1971, Nathan Leopold died of a diabetes-related heart attack. His corneas were donated for medical use the following morning. The fascination with Leopold, Loeb, and their crime has not relented since the discovery of Bobby Franks' body in 1924. Their personalities and their actions have inspired countless works, from Alfred Hitchcock's film Rope to Richard Wright's protagonist in his novel Native Son. Furthermore, many capital punishment critics echo Clarence Darrow's critique of the death penalty and point to Leopold and Loeb's many accomplishments in prison as evidence of the benefits of a rehabilitative system rather than a punitive one. Still, the strongest legacy, and the one for which they are best remembered, is that of the cold-blooded and calculated murder of a young boy on May 21, 1924.